Now, we've just learned today, with it being announced in a Vanity Fair article, that Dave Filoni has essentially been granted the rank of master, or of master storyteller, by being given a brand new role within the company, or at Lucasfilm, the role of Chief Creative Officer, which will see him basically work side by side with Kathleen Kennedy to guide the story of Star Wars forward into the future, with him saying of this new role in the article that, in the past, in a lot of projects, I would be brought into it. I would see it after it had already developed a good ways. In this new role, it's opened up to basically everything that's going on. That when we're planning the future of what we're doing now, I'm involved at the inception phase. Or, in other words, it seems, in days gone by, he'd get to see what others were doing and maybe be able to comment on it. And, well, since it was already well underway, there wasn't likely a ton that could be done to change anything that perhaps he thought should be changed. Now it seems he'll be there from the very start of a project to, no doubt, have much more influence over it, to potentially even stop bad things from being set into motion, though in this article he also said that I'm not telling people what to do, but I do feel I'm trying to help them tell the best story that they want to tell. I need to help across the galaxy here, like a part of a Jedi Council almost. The article then says he described his responsibilities as understanding the intent of the filmmakers and being a resource to them, based on his mentorship under Lucas himself, and his years spent steering the Clone Wars, Rebels, and Ahsoka. Filoni then goes on to say, literally hours now of Star Wars storytelling I have done. See, I even phrased that like Yoda. This article then goes on to say that Filoni will continue developing his film as well as exploring a possible second season of Ahsoka while serving in his new position. He then says, to truly help filmmakers, it was really important for me to experience it firsthand. I can also lend a perspective on the challenges that telling these stories will present. I feel more capable of actually being helpful outside of just saying, well, Jedi are like this and Sith are like this. Furthermore, this article then says that all the titles from Star Wars Celebration are still on the books, Lucasfilm officials say, including a historical epic about the early origins of the Force from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny filmmaker James Mangold, and a story revisiting Daisy Ridley's Rey from director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. Upcoming television projects including The Acolyte, set in the High Republic era about a century before the Star Wars story fans first encountered in the 1977 original, and Skeleton Crew, a show about a group of lost young space travelers set sometime after the Empire's defeat in Return of the Jedi. There is then a lot more to this article, a link to which will be in the description below, including some interviews with some of the actors from the Ahsoka series, like Hayden Christensen, all of which I'll almost certainly be getting into in a video on my other channel tomorrow. But for now, let's talk about the Filoni news. Let's talk about him, basically, by the sounds of it, having a good deal of control over the story of Star Wars now, over the projects that will be telling that story, I suppose. And I'm sure a lot of you will have a lot of things to say about it as well in the comments below, which I very much look forward to reading. And I can already imagine there are those out there who will say that, well, this news may have been more exciting or more welcomed a few months ago now, that you had more confidence in Filoni before the Ahsoka series came out because, well, that wasn't exactly the best series ever. And yes, I also know there are those who didn't like him well before that. Don't get me wrong, not everyone has loved Dave Filoni. As for me, yes, I'm a fan of his. I have made no secret of that over the years, and I do think he gets Star Wars better than most, which isn't to say I think he's perfect by any stretch. I think the Ahsoka series was a long way from perfect, for example, and I know many out there seem to think I hated absolutely everything about it, because yes, I have criticized it quite a bit, especially the ending or the last few episodes that really missed the mark with me. But I did think there was some good to it. I didn't think it was the worst thing we've gotten out of the Disney era of Star Wars, that is for sure. Though that said, even though it wasn't terrible, which is obviously far from high praise, it thus didn't exactly instill a ton of confidence in him from me going forward. Many times before the show came out, I said that this was in many ways going to be his test. That the Ahsoka series was going to be his Jedi trials, essentially. That it was his chance to prove he could not only be great in animation, that he could indeed ascend to the role of master and not exactly be the next George Lucas or anything quite like that, but be someone like him in a way, someone who got Star Wars and could put out a great show or produce a great show. That it would be his chance to prove that he could tackle a live-action project, quote-unquote, all by himself, from the writing to the directing and producing. Not that he's literally doing everything. Obviously, there are many, many people involved in such a project. But basically, it was his chance to prove that when he had control over everything, he could be the guy who kinda could maybe save Star Wars in the long run. And again, I don't think he nailed it. Ahsoka did not save Star Wars. Though it should also be noted it was his first attempt, if we're being fair here, right? You can cut him a bit of slack there if you want. It was his first full-on controlled live-action project. Though given the precarious nature of the franchise or its fandom, you can also argue he really needed to get it right on the first try. That the show needed to be something exceptional instead of mediocre, which, again, according to me, you may feel differently, you may love it, but according to me, that's pretty much what it was. Now, all that said, who knows exactly how much more Filoni will be doing directly or creating, how much writing, directing, and producing he will be doing. Yes, the article points out that he's still doing the movie and that the second season of Ahsoka is a possibility. But it sounds like the idea here, or what he'll be doing, is working with and helping others with their stories, or improving upon their ideas, or taking some of his ideas that he gives them and incorporating them into their own. Which, if you're a fan of Filoni in general, if you believe he gets Star Wars, that he is the Padawan of George Lucas now ascending to Master, and should be helping to dictate the direction of stories and the greater franchise or the bigger picture, but maybe don't think Ahsoka was the best, or that he should be down there in the trenches actually making it most of the time, well, this may be the best possible news for someone like you. Because, I mean, despite his humility here, talking about how he's only going to help others and kind of shepherd the spirit of Star Wars or whatever he's saying, to me, I think we can safely assume he has the power to do much, much more than that now. He has the power to tell other creators no. That he can read a script and say, no, you're not going to do that. Go back and make some changes. Which, as someone who, again, believes he gets Star Wars better than most, despite, sure, also putting some things in there from time to time I don't always agree with, I think this could be a big win. I think, or want to believe, I want to take in all that hopium, that this could be a game changer for Star Wars. Because basically I'd much rather have someone like him, someone who at the very least truly loves and gets Star Wars. I don't think anybody can argue those two things, that he loves Star Wars, and he gets it better than most people do. Unlike, as I've argued many times before, someone like Kathleen Kennedy, who doesn't so much understand it and doesn't seem to really love it. Anyway, I'd much rather have him being able to either help or stop some of these other creators that just come in and get everything wrong and do whatever the hell they want. In other words, he might not be perfect. I don't think there's anybody who's perfect for this job. But he's sure as hell a lot better than nothing, or better than Kennedy making the calls. And quite honestly, despite, as I just said, nobody being, I think, perfect for this role, other than maybe George Lucas himself, there should have been someone in this position from the very start of the Disney era. There should have been someone who was in charge of the story, both the overall story and the individual stories in movies and shows. Someone who understands Star Wars. Someone who could have, read the scripts for the sequels and stopped them from ever happening the way they did. Or who could have read the Kenobi scripts and fixed that disaster too. And quite honestly, or to be completely frank here, I have no idea if this is going to save Star Wars or anything like that. I have no idea if anything will be all that different going forward, or if Kennedy and the Disney overlords will still be meddling and holding everything back or doing everything their way despite him having this position now. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is all for show. That this announcement is meant to do exactly what it's doing for me right now. Give me some hope and to get me excited for a future that, well, hasn't always looked so bright. And I do want to believe that this is a game changer for the better. That this is indeed the start of a new era of Star Wars, essentially. That the Disney era, well, isn't exactly over, is it? But that maybe this is the start of the Filoni Disney era and the Kennedy Star Wars era is being phased out. And that it can be a lot better than what it has been, though, I mean, could it possibly be worse at this point? And as I've said so many times before, I'm always going to root for Star Wars. I'm always going to hope for things to get better, and so for now, how I felt about the Ahsoka series aside, I'm going to celebrate this news and hope that this is the win we've been looking for. It may not be in the end, Kennedy is still there, and who knows how Filoni will ultimately do, But right now, I want to believe in Star Wars again. I really want to believe in Star Wars again. And for at least the moment, I do have a new hope for the future. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's time for the floodgates to open for you all to take to the comments below and tell me what you think and feel about this one. And I'll probably put up a poll sometime very soon asking what you think and then doing a whole video going into how you all feel about this. But for now, again, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.